Hey, good morning. This is Tim Squires coming from my backyard, my back porch, listening to the birds, where I like to stand and talk to you and listen sometimes. And I have this subject that I wanted to talk to you about, and it's about the uh, the consequences and the rewards of sowing and reaping, the benefits and consequences of sowing and reaping. And you probably have heard it lots of time in church, perhaps if you do a lot of that sort of thing, or you listen to these preachers on TV and they'll tell you about sowing and reaping. And of course, their whole motive is for you to give to them money, as if that is going to be, if that works. And the important thing in that is to you have to be, if you're a person who sows and looks to reap, you've got to look at what you're reaping and seeing if it's working or not. In the Bible, in the book of Genesis, when God created everything, he said this when he set a law and a motion of sowing and reaping, he said that everything should give. Everything will give after its own kind. For example, if you plant corn, you're going to get corn. You're not going to get wheat or tomatoes or carrots or anything else. If you plant carrots, you're not going to get corn or wheat or maple tree or anything like that. You're going to get what you plant. You get what you plant. In the New Testament, Jesus said something really interesting, and this is what I wanted to tie with it. He said, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. And this is where I want to make this thought process. We know about the physical sowing and reaping, how you can plant things in a field and get what you want or what you expect. But the thing is that the human mind works very much the same way. Our brains are working the same way. You can also get to plant exactly, or to get to reap what you plant in that area too, and that's what Jesus was talking about when he says what you think in your heart, that's what you are. The ground doesn't really care too much about what you plant. You can go to a piece of ground and you can plant a seed that will bring forth some food for you to eat, that would nourish you and bring you health. But it also will grow poison if you plant that. If you planted a poisonous plant, the ground doesn't care. It doesn't matter to the ground. It just does what it's told to do. And what it's told to do is to bring forth what is the seed after its own kind. So if you were to plant something that's poisonous, something poisonous will come. And it's the same thing with your mind. You may not realize this, but you can plant good things inside of you, what you think in your heart, but the poisonous stuff will grow as well. So the object of the thing is to think about, to consider planting some good stuff in you. Now, if you look at a couple of things, like for example, the distance between rich people and poor people. Some years ago, I used to work for a landscaper, and one of the things we would do when we get a very large project, we would go into the city, and sometimes we'd find people standing around the corner, or we would go to a temporary agency to get somebody to do a project that would last a day or two. And we would find these people who had not taken the time to plant something good, and so we would work with these people at a minimum wage, and they would do some hard physical labor for us. But one of the things I learned really quickly is that it didn't really matter what they looked like on the outside. There were some people out there begging for jobs, and there were people homeless on the street that had degrees. There were people who were educated in law. There were people who were educated in computer science, but for some reason, they're out on the street begging for jobs, looking for money, and it didn't matter. And the whole thing is just like there's a big difference between education and planting seed. So you know, I mean, think about it. You heard your whole life that if you go to school, you learn what you can. You go to school, you go to college, and you learn as much as you can so that you can get a good job. But you know that there are people out there who have great learning and spend a great deal of money putting knowledge into their head, and they can spit out knowledge to you, but they haven't figured out how to get that stuff to grow like a seed. And you would think that they're just dumb, but they're not dumb. They just don't know. They don't know how to get out of their circumstances. I've met quite a few people that were just highly educated. They knew their stuff, but they didn't know how to be what they wanted to be. And that's probably why you see the poor people who stay poor, and then you see rich people who stay rich. You've heard this old saying, the poor get poorer, the rich get richer. And why is that so? And it all has to do with the whole law of sowing and reaping. The poor people keep on planting the seeds that keep them poor, while the rich people keep on planting the seeds that make them rich. It's not that the rich people take from the poor, because the poor wouldn't let them if they knew what it was that was going on. What's happening is that the rich people are able to plant seed inside of them that grows and nourishes. So that's what I want you to consider. Think about putting something inside of you. Your brain, your mind is a field. And the crazy thing is the human being it's the possibility of growing whatever it wants to. The mind is like the field. It doesn't care what's planted. One of the problems we have is that there's a gestation period involved in sowing and reaping. When you plant the corn or you plant a carrot, if you plant each one of those items has a different period of gestation or growth. Let's say, for example, a man comes home from work one day and his wife says to him, "We are going to have a baby. Went to the doctor today. We're going to have a baby." The man's all excited. Starts making his plans for his son or his daughter that he's about to have. But suppose that man comes home in 1 month, 30 days, and just demands of his wife, "Where is this child? It's not here. It's not coming." That'd be pretty stupid, wouldn't it? Because it takes 9 months for a baby to fully grow before birth happens. But that's the way we are. If we plant a seed in our minds and we expect it to grow, it takes time. Now, it's possibility to predict close to it. We don't always get 100%, but you can get pretty close to the gestation period of a thought or an idea. And sometimes you can put the demands on thoughts and ideas, but you can't on a baby. So what happens is that when you want something, you want it desperately, but you don't get it in the time period, you give up and you plant something else. You rip out your seed and you plant something else. So it's really important for you to, when you've got your seed, when you know what it is that you want to do, what you want to be, where you want to go, and those sorts of things, and we've talked about this before, that you nourish it, that you give it, this is the faith process. The writer of Hebrews says that faith is the substance of things hoped for, and there's a substance to it. And one of the things is that you have to add faith to the seed that you're sowing in order for it to come to pass. Otherwise, you don't know what's going to happen. There are some seed that just happens, but there are some seed that you have to patiently cultivate and take care of and weed out. The weeds would be things like fear and doubt. Is the weeds in your mind that suck out the seed, that keep it from growing to be all that you want it to be. So this is my call to action. This is what I advise you to do, is to look up some people up online, and I'll have a link to one in the blog that I'm going to put this to, and the blog is going to be about sowing and reaping, but there's going to be a link in there for Bob Proctor, and I'll start you with the first of the series, and you can hunt for the rest. It's called "You Were Born Rich." Basically, what he talks about was we all were born with a capabilities of being whatever we want to be. And it's up to us to plant the seed, and he tells them those things, how you can do that. So do that. Click on those links, and I also ask you to join up with me. Let's lock arms, and we have to change the thought process of this world that we're living into. That's the doing business God's way, is to give a little bit of to give away free stuff like this value that I'm giving you today, to help people in their thought process to become who they were, who they were designed to be, who they were intended to be, and not to be somebody who has no clue. You were born to be a lot more than what you are, and let's team up and let's get this done. Change this world for the better. Talk to you later. Have an awesome day.